AZ-104 is one exam that every Azure aspirant look forward to, and case study type of questions are integral part of AZ-104 certification exam. Hello and welcome back to the Tech Blackboard. Once again today I am here with a case study type of question on AZ-104. Please note that this is our third part on AZ-104 case studies. So if you have missed watching the earlier two parts, please do watch them. Besides the case studies, I have also shared generic guidelines from Microsoft on case studies, which is a must thing to understand for everyone. And then I have also shared some tips and tricks that you can use while giving the exam. The links for both the earlier parts are right there in the description box. So without wasting any time, let's read our case study. So here comes our case study. First we have overview section, and that says that Blackboard Limited is a consulting company that has a main office in Montreal and branch offices in Seattle and New York. Moving on, we have existing environment details. Let's read them out. Blackboard has an Azure subscription named Sub1 that is linked to an Azure Active Directory tenant. The network contains an on-premises Active Directory domain that syncs with Azure AD tenant. The Azure AD tenant contains the users as shown in the following table. Here you can see that we are given with the details of 4 users. We have user 1 who is a member and role is not given. Similarly, we have user 2 which is of type guest. Then we have user 3 and user 4, both are member. You can see that role is not given for any of the user. Moving on, the case study says that Sub1, which is the subscription, contains 2 resource group named RG1 and RG2 and the virtual networks shown in the following table. Here we see that we have 4 virtual network. Types are also given, and then we are also given with the role. So we have VNet 1 which has a type of subnet 1 and subnet 2, and the role is given as VNet 2. Similarly, we have VNet 2, VNet 3 and VNet 4. All of them are of type subnet 1. The role is distinct and you can note it here. And here comes more existing environment details. It says that user 1 manages the resources in RG1. User 4 manages the resources in RG2. Sub 1 contains virtual machines that run on Windows Server 2019 as shown in the following table. Here you can see that we are given with the details of virtual machine, actually 5 virtual machines. We have IP address given for each virtual machine along with the location and along with the virtual network or subnet that they are connected to. Moving on, the case study says that no network security groups or NSG are associated to the network interfaces or the subnets. Sub 1 contains the storage account shown in the following table. Now here you can see that we have name of the storage accounts. Then we are also given with the kind of storage account along with the location, file share, and then we also have identity based access for the file share. This is a very important section from the question perspective based on this case study. So let me read this section in a little bit more detail. Here you can see that we are given with 4 storage account. Along with that, we can note that storage 1 is of general purpose version 1. Storage 2 on the other hand is storage v2, which means that it is general purpose version 2. And then we have storage 3, which is blob storage. Storage 4, which is file storage. Friends, it's very important that you note the kind of storage that we have associated with each storage account. Although throughout the questions, I will bring the relevant sections from the case studies so that we can relate the questions with the case study. And here comes our requirement section that starts with planned changes. And this section says that Blackboard plans to implement the following changes. The first one is create a blob container named container1 and a file share named share1 that will use a cool storage tier. Then it says that create a storage account named storage5 and configure storage replication for the blob service. The last plan change given is create an NSG. What is NSG? NSG is network security group named NSG1 that will have the custom inbound security rules as shown in the following table. So here we are given with the custom inbound security rule. We are given with priority, port, protocol, source, destination and action. Moving on, the case study says that associate the NSG1 to the network interface of virtual machine 1. Then it says that create an NSG named NSG2 that will have a custom outbound security rules as shown in the following table. Further, it says that associate NSG2 to the VNet1/subnet2. You can see here that we are given with the custom outbound rule. We are given with priority, port, protocol, source, destination and action. Please mind that this table below is the custom outbound security rule and the table above is the custom inbound security rules. Now I have seen that many people get really confused when it comes to the priority of the NSG. The confusion to many people is that which priority will execute further. Will it be the lower number or will it be the higher number? So let me clear out that confusion. Let's go to the Microsoft documentation. So this is the Microsoft documentation on Network Security Group or NSG. If you scroll a little bit more, you will reach to this section which says security rule, and here you can understand what does a priority mean and how it actually works. Let's read this section. It says a number between 100 and 4096 rules are processed in the priority order with lower numbers processed before higher numbers. This is a very important concept here. The lower numbers processed before higher number. So you can see that lower number are given precedence over the higher number, which is sometimes a little counterintuitive, but yes, this is how it is. Further, it says because the lower numbers have higher priority. Once traffic matches a rule, processing stops. A very important concept is coming here. It says as a result, any rule that exists with lower priorities that have the same attributes as rules with the higher priorities are not processed. So friends, on this documentation, not only you can understand on priority, you can also understand source and destination, what are the different protocols supported by NSG, direction, port range and action. So all in all, a very important Microsoft documentation. The link for this documentation I have shared in the description box. Now let's read the last section of the case study and then we will jump to the question and answer based on this case study. So let's read out these technical requirements. We have Blackboard must meet the following technical requirements. The first one is create container 1 and share 1. Use the principle of least privilege. Create an Azure AD security group named Group 4. The fourth one is backup the Azure file shares and virtual machines by using Azure Backup. Then we have trigger an alert if virtual machine 1 or virtual machine 2 has less than 20 GB of free space on volume C. The sixth technical requirement says that enable user 1 to create Azure policy definitions and user 2 to assign Azure policy to the RG1. The seventh one says that create an internal basic Azure load balancer named LB1 and connect the load balancer to VNet1 and subnet1. Then we have enable flow logging for IP traffic from virtual machine 5 and retain the flow logs for a period of 8 months. The last technical requirement is whenever possible grant Group 4 Azure role-based access, Azure RBAC, read-only permissions to the Azure file shares. So that were all the details given in the case study. Now let's read the questions and try to answer them. So let's read our first question. The question says that you need to ensure that user 1 can create initiative definitions and user 4 can assign initiatives to the RG2. RG2 is nothing but resource group. The solution must meet the technical requirements. Which role should you assign to each user? To answer, select the appropriate option in the answer area. Please note that each correct selection is worth 1 point. Here you can see that we are given with user 1 and user 4, and for each user we are given with some roles. Let's read the roles for user 1. Here we have contributor to the RG1, then we have contributor to the sub 1 which is subscription 1, then we have security admin for RG1, and lastly resource policy contributor for the sub 1. On the other hand, for the user 4, we have contributor to the RG2, contributor to the sub 1, security admin for sub 1, and then we have resource policy contributor for RG2. Now friends, to better answer this question, you must first understand three terms related to the Azure policy. The first one is policy, of course. The second one is initiatives. And lastly, you have to understand what is assignments. We also need to understand the contributor role. So let me take you to the Microsoft site to understand all these concepts. So here I am on the Microsoft site that gives all related information on Azure policy. So what is Azure policy? Azure policy helps to enforce organizational standards and to access compliance at scale. Through its compliance dashboard, it provides an aggregated view to evaluate the overall state of the environment. Now let's understand what is policy definition. So as you can read here, policy definition, the journey of creating and implementing a policy in Azure policy begins with creating a policy definition. Every policy definition has conditions under which it's enforced. And further, it has a defined effect that takes place if conditions are met. So you can read more on Azure policy here. Now let's move our concentration and understand our next term, which is initiatives. In the same documentation page, now I am in the section initiative definition. This one says that an initiative definition is a collection of policy definitions that are tailored towards achieving a singular overarching goals. Initiative definitions simply managing and assigning policy definition. This simply by grouping a set of policy as one single item. For example, you create an initiative titled Enable Monitoring in Microsoft Defender for Cloud with a goal to monitor all the available security recommendations in your Microsoft Defender for Cloud instance. So you can read all about initiative definition in this section. Now let's move on to understand what is assignments. So here in the assignment section, same documentation. Here you can read that an assignment is a policy definition or initiative that has been assigned to a specific scope. This scope could range from a management group to an individual resource. The term scope refers to all the resources, resource group, subscription or management group that the definition is assigned to. So friends, please read and understand these important terms, policy, initiative and assignment in this documentation. Now before I leave this documentation, let's take a quick look on the contributor role. Friends, in the same documentation, there is a section which is called Azure RBAC permissions in Azure policy. Here you can read that many built-in rules grant permissions to Azure policy resources. The resource policy contributor role includes most Azure policy operation. Owner has full rights. Both contributor and readers have access to all read Azure policy operation. Further, you can read that contributor may trigger resource remediation but cannot create or update definitions and assignment. User access administrator is necessary to grant the manage identity on deploy if not exist or modify assignment necessary permission. Very important section to answer these kind of questions. Coming back to the presentation, we read on the Microsoft documentation that the resource policy contributor role can do most Azure policy operations. Owner has full rights. On the other hand, both contributor and reader have access to all Azure policy operations. With this knowledge in mind, let's try to find the answer for the user 1. So now, because user 1 should be enabled so that he or she can create initiative definitions, and for this we would need to assign role on subscription level. That's why the correct answer for user 1 is resource policy contributor for subscription 1. Now for the user 4, the question clearly says that the user 4 can assign initiatives to RG2, which means that now we are talking on resource group level. So the correct answer for user 4 is resource policy contributor for RG2. Now let's move on to the next question. Question number 2. The question says that you need to create container 1 and share 1. Which storage accounts should you use for each resource? To answer, select the appropriate option in the answer area, and each correct selection is worth 1 point. And here you can see that we are given with container 1 and share 1. So we have to pick which storage should we use for container 1 and share 1. Now friends, for a better understanding, let me bring out the section from the case study that you need to consider for answering this question. So here it comes, the section from existing environment, which has the information that we need to answer this question. Now it's very important to relate the case study with the question, and friends, please mind that these kind of help or hints will not be given in the actual Azure exams. This is just to help you and give you a good idea on how to relate questions with the overall case study. And of course, if you're still here learning with me, please do not miss to give a like to this video. It takes a lot of efforts to bring such complex case studies to you and explain them in a manner that everyone understands. Your likes will help these videos to reach out to more and more Azure learners and really boost my morale. Now coming to the container 1, if you remember in the planned changes section, it was given that the container 1 is a blob container. Now carefully analyze all the storage given here. We cannot create a blob storage in storage 1 because it's general purpose version 1. Similarly, we cannot create a blob storage in storage 4, which is a file storage. So what are the two options we are left with? We are left with storage 2, which is a general purpose version 2, and storage 3, which is a blob storage. And that's why, my friends, the correct answer for container 1 is storage 2 and storage 3 only. And now let me come up to the share 1. Once again, I'm referring to the planned changes section, and in that section it was mentioned that share 1 is a file share that will use cool storage tier. And that's why, my friends, it's only storage 2 general purpose version 2 that can support cool storage tier, and that's exactly what our answer is as well. By the way, just so you know, there are 3 storage tier: hot, cool and archive. And it's very important to understand these 3 type of tiers. That's why I'm here on the Microsoft documentation. So let's begin with the hot tier. The documentation says that an online tier optimized for storing data that is accessed or modified frequently. The hot tier has highest storage cost but the lowest access cost. On the other hand, for cool tier, the documentation says that an online tier optimized for storing data that is infrequently accessed or modified. Data in cool tier should be stored for a minimum of 30 days. The cool tier has lower storage cost and higher access cost compared to hot tier. Lastly, we have archive tier, and the documentation says that an online tier optimized for storing data that is rarely accessed and that has flexible latency requirements on the order of hours. Data in the archive tier should be stored for a minimum of 180 days. So please keep these important considerations around all these tiers. The link for this documentation is also available in the description box. And here comes the question 3 based on the case study. And this question says that you need to create storage 5. The solution must support the planned changes. Which type of storage account should you use and which account should you configure as the destination storage account? To answer, select the appropriate option in the answer area, and please note that each correct selection is worth 1 point. And here, as you can see, that we are given with account kind and destination. And for each, we are given with some of the options. Let's begin with account kind. So for account kind, we have blob storage, blob storage, then we have storage, which is general purpose version 1, and then we have storage v2, which is general purpose version 2. Now friends, as you may have noticed that the question talks about supporting the planned changes. So let me quickly bring up the planned changes section so that we can easily relate the case study section with this question. Here it comes. And friends, as I mentioned earlier, these kind of hints will not be given in the actual examination. These are here just to facilitate your understanding and make it easier for you to prepare for the exam. Now in this section, you can find all the details around storage 5. This section says that create a storage account named storage 5 and configure storage replication for the blob service. So friends, can you guess which kind of storage account will support this requirement? Well, it is none other than Storage V2 General Purpose version 2. And that's our answer for the account kind. Now for the destination. If you remember the specifications of all the storage in the existing environment details section, it was Storage 2, that's a General Purpose version 2. And that's why Storage 2 is the correct answer for the destination. So that was all for today. I hope you liked this interesting case study. Please do not miss to watch the earlier two parts. The more you understand case studies, the better your chances to pass AZ-104. In the coming episodes, I will bring more exciting case studies, and many of our viewers have requested an updated version of Q&A series on AZ-104. We are working on that and soon it will be released. And friends, if you or anyone of your known is interested, we also have a series of videos on case studies on DP203. Please do like the video before you jump on to see the other parts. Do subscribe to the channel and make sure to press that bell icon to receive the timely notifications of our all upcoming videos on Azure certification. Thank you so much for your precious time and learning with us. I will see you in the next video. Till then, stay fit, keep learning, and thanks for watching.
If this video has added any value in your learning, a like and subscribe is highly appreciated. Share this video in your family and friends to spread and expand their learning. Your comments and feedback give me a chance to interact with you, and I look forward for them. We will meet again in our next video. Till then, stay fit, keep learning, and thanks for watching.